One of the qualities of a good leader is that they never ask their subordinates to do anything that they wouldn't do themselves. And another closely aligned quality is that they set an example for others to follow. And so if that is so, Jesus asking us to reach out to a person individually, then with one or two other people, and then the entire community to address someone sinning is how he must be dealing with us as well. There's something to say about how Jesus treats us. In the first way, when we sin, he reaches out to us individually, in prayer, in our conscience, when we reflect, in the events of our daily lives. The responsorial psalm said, "If today you hear his voice, harden not your heart," so that you can hear his voice and be converted and be brought back. But sometimes we don't hear that voice. There's so many sounds drowning it out. Other times, I hear his voice and I reject it because it's not what I want to hear. And so, what do we do when that happens? Does Jesus Christ just write us off? I know he didn't do that with me. After confirmation, I just kind of left the church, didn't do much of anything except pray. I would pray every night, but I was heading down the road of spiritual, but not religious. And so then what Jesus says to do for the next is, if they don't listen to you, bring along one or two witnesses. And that's what Ezekiel does. Ezekiel is going to the Israelites to warn them to stop sinning, or else something will befall them. But then again, Jesus sends people to us to warn us as well. How many godparents are reaching out to their children who are gone astray? How many parents come up to me and say, my kid doesn't practice? How about a coworker or friend? Even the priest or the reconciliation, someone reaching out to us to bring us back to Christ. I know that was for me too, where in my freshman year in college, someone talked to me about Jesus Christ and him suffering and died to free me from my sins. And when I really reflected on that, I said, well, at least I could go to church. You know, it'll work just fine. I'll go to 4 o'clock Saturday night mass and then hit the bars. So it did work. But then again, it wasn't exactly what it should be. But then, even then, did God write me off? Did God write anyone else off? So that's why he sends the community, sends the church. A community to not only support what is being said, but provide example for what's being said. Models of how to live. How I live out my Christian vocation is different than how you live it out, and how the next person and the next person. Each of us has that separate gift that is used to build up the body of Christ. For my own self, when I finally had my first real job in Marblehead, Ohio, which is halfway between Toledo and Cleveland on a peninsula. And to see the people of St. Joseph in that community welcome me, who was a stranger, give example of how to worship God. That's where I really, truly was converted. That was when I truly encountered the Lord. And yet, sometimes we don't even listen to that. Oh, I don't want to listen to the church, or all these people are boring, or whatever. And then Jesus says, treat them as you would a tax collector or sinner. And so how does Jesus treat the tax collectors and sinners? He doesn't scorn them. He eats with them. He talks with them. He reaches out to them. He accompanies them in the hope that one day they will hear his voice. One day their hearts will not be hardened. We are instruments in God's hands. We are part of the salvation history. This gospel reading is not just some little, conflict resolution 101, and here's how you do the conflict. No, it's about our role in salvation history. that we are sent forth from this Mass to share the good news of Jesus Christ. And a part of that good news is to proclaim sin when appropriate, to say that we all have fallen short of the glory of God. And the more that we know that we've fallen short of the glory of God, the more we know that we stand in need of salvation. If I say I have everything great in my life, I don't really sin, yeah, okay, sure, I use the Lord's name in vain once or twice, no big deal. Well, then why do I need Jesus Christ? If I know in my guts that I'm a sinner, if I know that I stand helpless before my sins, then I realize my need for Jesus Christ and that salvation. And that's the good news. That's the good news we go forth from this table to proclaim. We are all responsible for our brother's keeper. We are all the ones that, with the prophet Ezekiel saying that if you see your brother sinning and you do nothing, then he will die. But you'll be responsible. But if you at least say something, okay, then that man has a chance. And even if he doesn't listen, at least you tried, and you will not be held responsible. We share in that reality. It's not so easy to say, well, you're going to hell, and that's it, and walk away and think that we've done our duty. Instead, we reach out to our neighbor and accompany them. We accompany them by prayer. We accompany them by talking to them at an appropriate time. We accompany them with 2 or 3, or even the whole community. We reach out and accompany them even when they won't listen to us or any of the people I ask. Not to write them off, just as much as Jesus Christ has not written off each and every one of us. Nor do we do with our brothers and sisters. This gospel reading tells of how Jesus Christ has treated us, but also our role in salvation history. How Jesus Christ is asking each and every one of us to bring our brothers and sisters back to him. We give praise and thanks that by reaching out to our brothers and sisters, we play a role in the salvation of our brothers and sisters and become part of the redemption of the world.